What I also do too is that I include culture with the language.
Yeah.
I'll be teaching them a particular word or phrase or expression, but then I'll tell them where it comes from, why it is this way, why we say it that way,
Yeah.
why we don't say this word. I mean, the word nyawa in Mohawk gets interpreted as thank you in English, but that's kind of the beginning and the end of it. We don't. The reality is, if you follow, older tradition, which is the way I was raised, you don't say nyawa for every little thing. You don't use it the way it's used in English. In English, it's just thank you, thank you, thank you. It becomes a meaningless. It becomes a grunt, quite literally, in the English language, which because people just use it so freely that it starts to lose its meaning. Or and in Mohawk, nyawa is used, or should only be used, between yourself and the Creator. Even when you say nyawa, you see something beautiful. You see a sunset, a beautiful flower, a nice majestic scenery or whatever, stuff like that. Then you say nyawa, because now that nyawa, is directed towards the Creator, and it's showing appreciation for what you're dealing with and stuff. When we sit at the table and we eat, the first one that gets up says nyawa, not for the food, and but for the opportunity to sit with other people and share food. So we're getting into the habit of using it much the same way it's used in English. Here young speakers, more contemporary ones that are using or learning the language, they'll use nyawa the same way they do. And I say no.
Well, I wondered, is there a tension there? That so on the one hand you want to honor the traditions and the things you've learned from the elders and from the older people, and on the other hand, for a language to stay alive, it has to change, right? Is that so? If people are changing the language some, it's because it's still a living language.
I think there are certain things that we don't want to change.
Yeah.
That we don't particularly want to update, because then it starts to erode our uniqueness. If you're going to speak Mohawk the way you speak English, why don't you just speak English? You can update certain things, but other things you can't. Like negating a future situation. In English, you can say, "Oh, it will not snow today." How presumptive you are, because just because the sky is blue, but there's a cloud, and the cloud. If there's one cloud, there's another cloud, and another cloud, and another cloud, and by the end of the day, we could see snow, which is all within the realm of the will, because the will is in the future. We cannot negate the future.
So that's a cultural attitude that shows up in the grammar of Mohawk?
Yep.
That you don't use negation with the future?
You can construct a negative future. Nobody does.
Right.
Fluent speakers don't. I mean, why would you? Because it interferes. We have other ways of kind of getting around it.
Right.
But, most people just wouldn't. You just would not say, "It will not snow." We can create what amounts to a negative sort of thing, and we use it with the non-definite, which is like saying it would not, or there's a possibility that it won't, it will not, it would not. But the thing is that you cannot directly say it will not.
Right.
So we go to a very fuzzy sort of non-definite situation, and we negate that.
Right.
Cheating in a way, but at the same time, it is an important cultural, part of the language. I mean, it's, the fact that, you have a culture that doesn't, negate the future. They deal with the future in a different sort of way. So, you know, those sorts of things, I think, have to be kept in language because they are the sort of things that add to the uniqueness of a particular language. You know, word order in Mohawk. English has a set word order, subject, verb, object. Mohawk's word order is quite literally whatever comes out of your mouth. What joins it all together are pronominal prefixes, you know, and that works. But because the pronunciation of Mohawk, pronunciation of word in Mohawk is set. However, due to the situation in which that word may occur when a statement or sentence, the accent on that word may shift. You know, so, okay, fine. So if I say, Gahiyadon Sara, you know, for book, then the accent is on don, Gahiyadon Sara, and okay, fine. But if I say Gahiyadon Sarage on the book, that accent shifted to the penultimate syllable. So accent shifts on a word depending upon where that word occurs. Okay. English is a language blessed with one or two syllable words, which actually puts English speakers in an odd situation since most of them seem to have a hard time pronouncing a word that has more than two syllables. You know, which makes my name really hard for many people. Oh, gun at the waka. Oh, I can't say that. And it's worse if they see it written. But the thing is, in Mohawk, word organization, word position is dependent on emphasis. So if I want to say the boy is walking on a road, what am I saying? The boy is walking on the road? Raksa ire ohahage. Or am I saying the boy is walking on the road? Ire na raksa ohahage. Or am I saying the boy is walking on a road? Ohahage ire raksa. So I shift my words around. There's actually 6 arrangements of that, the 3 words. You know. And it's all dependent on emphasis. They're also dependent upon if you're answering a question. Because what did you buy? A coat I bought.
Yes.
Because the question what, you know, is asking for information, which you then place first, which puts it in an emphasized position. That's a very important part of the uniqueness of the language. You know, so there are 3 very unique things with the language that, you know, we can't lose by modernizing it or contemporizing it. You know, the language is set. The culture that goes with the language, if you stop using a stone axe, then eventually the word for stone axe is going to disappear. You know, unless for some really bizarre.
Its meaning.
So, you know, then some vocabulary we've created in the past that we've carried through into the future, like ohasara, a light, now is used primarily in reference to artificial lighting. But originally it referred to something that looked very much like this bone, ohasa, with a ra suffix. So then ohasara is kind of gives the impression or gives the appearance of this particular bone. And if you look at that bone and you look like a candle, So the thing is, so we called the candles ohasara. Then lamps showed up. Well, more or less the same shape. Ohasara. Then lights, lamps. You know, living room lamps and stuff showed up. Okay, ohasara. Nowadays, ohasara refers to anything that throws artificial light. You know, ceiling lights, wall lights, the whole bit. You know, so
flashlight on your phone.
It's so that is a word that has followed through time. Because even though we had your basic application, but the shape kept changing. But okay,
that's
fine.
That's a natural semantic drift that happens in most languages. That's it.
Yeah.